This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of having, coming straight from Bangkok, Jack Thomas, podcaster, app developer, entrepreneur, and owner of some studios and clubs, well known outside of the U.S. Now he will be well known in the U.S. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Pete. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and happy to share some of our story here over in Bangkok. Obviously, it's been a crazy year, but I think I got some stuff which will help the listeners out wherever they are in the world.
Yeah, great. So, they pushed the goalpost back on us recently. We were trying to get through November 1st, and now that seems to be April 1st, and we're in the midst of a nor'easter and a pandemic and outdoor dining in cold weather. So why don't you give us a little bit of a lens into, what post-corona looks like? So at least we could have a little bit of hope in the next couple of weeks of that there is an other side of this.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say I'm sorry to see what's happening over in the States. It really does pain me to see the state of the fitness industry there. And I'm sure a lot of good quality players are going to be really struggling to pull through this. So definitely my thoughts go out to the US fitness market for sure. We are in a much better spot here in Asia, especially here in Thailand. We've had pretty much zero cases for about 5-6 months now. So we had 2.5 months of hard lockdown. We peaked here at about 100 cases per day, and then it slowly just kind of whittled away as if by magic. So, towards the end of that 2.5 months, it definitely became quite frustrating. It became pretty tough, but now I kind of feel like a bit of a spoiled kid looking back at how I was feeling then compared to the UK, the US, and many other fitness markets around the world. So since we reopened, which was in May, so we're looking at, 6 months ago now, we've just gradually creeped back to somewhat near pre-COVID levels. So we're currently sitting at around 80% in terms of revenue. Interestingly, personal training is over 100% year on year. We've definitely seen people kind of shift over to that, which has been cool. We did give the option for all of our group class clients to shift to personal training and convert their packages. Many took that. Group classes has been a slower process getting back. Personal training was pretty much 100% from day one of reopening, but group classes was a lot slower. We had from 30 as our max. We started off with 10 people. We had less classes to allow for more cleaning, but we've just gradually increased the numbers month by month. And now we're sitting at about 75 to 80% year on year what we were doing for group class, which is obviously very, very encouraging. And it's shown us that people were very keen to get back into the studio after doing burpees, mountain climbers, and air squats in front of the TV for a few months. And I think that will be mirrored around the world, actually. We've heard that's happened in Australia. People are very keen to get back into the studio. And I'm definitely very bullish on the future of in-person institute fitness.
And what's the situation on, having to wear masks or social distancing? Is that kind of, passed as well and you're in a clear, or what are some of the restrictions?
It's more Asian culture, I would say, to just wear a mask. We've been wearing masks here for a long time, COVID or no COVID. And actually in January, February, the air pollution did spike in Bangkok. So a lot of people were just wearing masks anyway. The culture here is very much obedient. It's kind of listening to the government. It's kind of doing what they're told and want to be seen to doing the right thing, as opposed to sort of the freedoms and the individuality that we have in the West. I reflected on this recently, and I actually think the things that makes the West great, I think has kind of screwed it. It's less control from the government. People kind of do what they want to do. They have the freedom to do whatever they want to do, which I think is fantastic. And I do love that about the UK and the US. But right now in this current situation, it's definitely put the West in a bad place. Whereas Asia, it seems to have benefited us here. I mean, China's gone down to 0 cases, and that's where the whole thing started, right? So you look around and there's a lot of compliance. You walk down the street and even with 0 cases, there's still a lot of people wearing masks. There's nightclubs are open now. No one's wearing masks there. Bars and restaurants. There are certain situations where people are definitely relaxing here, but generally day to day, on mass transit, public transport, people are pretty much doing the right thing. And I think that is one of the keys to success. They don't really let their guard down. So even if COVID creeps back in across the border from Myanmar, let's say they've had a few cases, I think because we're largely doing the right things there or thereabouts, I think that's massively, massively helped us. Whereas in the UK, cases go down a little bit and everyone's like, hey, let's party, let's get out there, let's stop wearing masks. And I'm not a scientist, but I feel like that's probably played a part in Asia's success.
Yeah. Just to go down a tangent, I've been listening to a lot of historical podcasts over the last 7-8 months about American history. And you realize that, it's the United States of America. It's not America. And there was a fear of the federal government. So the federal government in the U.S. was kind of basically set up to be designed for gridlock, so they couldn't really come after the people. So all their energy would be expended arguing and kind of, meeting in the middle in order to make sure that the freedoms, they'd be exhausted by the time they got to the people. So, it's designed where the states are really supposed to be independent, and they're, consolidated, if you will, for security purposes and for fiscal purposes. But the freedoms in the U.S. have definitely, not been a good variable, when it comes to compliance. That's been going on even during the pandemic of 1918. Supposedly, there wasn't much compliance then, and there isn't much now. So
it seems like you can't have it all. You can't have complete and absolute freedom and do everything that you want to do and also have no COVID. So you've got to give something up somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that the administration, their radical approach to masks, I think I'm a superhero. I used to wear a Batman mask. They could have, Trump could have probably netted a couple $1 billion, which are very high margin, masks are pretty high margin, accessory. So I'm not really sure who convinced him that the no mask thing was a good idea, because it was another, piece of souvenir, a souvenir piece, if you will, that probably is an 80% margin product. But
yeah, I think one of the few financial winners here have been mask producers for sure, especially the luxury ones. Yeah, some of those companies have done extremely well. Not so much fitness.
So I'll get off my tangent. Let's go back to the fitness industry. So, from a standpoint of, there's definitely a fear in this market now of that the at home and that the digital players, and there's been some really big venture capital investments in the industry that have been, whether it's Strava or Tonal or Mirror, and obviously Peloton's valuation. If I was a fly on the wall in a venture capital investment committee, they got to be looking at the $60 billion of annual recurring membership revenue and saying like, hey, there's 25% of that's up for grabs. So, where you sit, are the studios and the clubs now saying, hey, look, we'll do our own digital, you're not taking that away from us, good effort, but it's not going to happen? Or, do you see some of the digital players out there stealing our members, if you will?
It was interesting to see how the Asia market adapted to the situation. So just to give you a bit of background on myself, I've been here for 15 years in the fitness industry for 10 years. And so first as a consumer, then as a coach, then a manager, and then a business owner, I've seen the fitness industry pretty much develop from absolutely nothing to being like a major player in the Asia fitness market. We've got all sorts of different boutique offerings, big names coming in, big box fitness first and the like coming in as well. So it's turned into a very lively market. So although it's matured a lot, it's still not on the same level as the West. We're still a good 3, 4, 5 years behind, but we are catching up. Online fitness, digital fitness, just not really a thing here at all 1 year ago. With COVID, suddenly everyone's found their studios that they like to go to. They've got their gym routine. There's rhythm cycling studios here like Soul Cycle, and they wanted to carry that on, and they kind of needed something to do at home. So it's very interesting to see how quickly they shifted into doing online and digital fitness. There's no big players here such as Peloton. You can't get or Tonal or Mirror or anything like that are pretty hard to get or impossible to get and kind of link up here. So yeah, there's no big players who've taken a chunk of the market in that regard. But the boutiques here did jump in, Fitness First and the other chains here did set up online digital offerings that were very popular. Now, during lockdown, Now, what we've seen since then is people just couldn't wait to get back into the studio. And we set up a online digital offering that we ran called Base Anywhere. We put workouts every day, live workouts, on-demand workouts. We put a lot of effort and energy into it. It kept some money coming in. It kept the team busy. It was really very successful. We got 150 people on recurring membership, which was way beyond what we expected. So it showed during that time the market was there. It absolutely plummeted once the gym was reopened, which we found really interesting. And we didn't see such a sharp drop, actually. We thought a lot of people would maybe want to do 50-50, or maybe they got used to training at home. So that was something that we didn't quite expect. That was quite interesting. I'm actually a believer in you need to create something in your gym or your studio that you just cannot get at home. And that's what we've done at Base through the environment we've created, the connection that the coach has with you. Mm-hmm. We've got something called baseline technology that we've developed, which tracks and records your results as you go through a group class. It's just an experience that you can't get at home. So I did suspect people would want to come back, but I didn't know how strongly they would want to come back or how quickly they would come back. And that's actually I'm very happy about that. It's exceeded my expectations. And I think it just shows that if you really create something very special in your gym, people will want to come back and the market still will be there for sure. If you haven't got coaches that really connect with the staff, if you haven't got front desk team that learn people's names, get to know people, there's a community vibe, people might just stay at home doing the online workouts because you can get free apps now that give you the workouts. So I think any gym, any studio needs to think about, are there elements of your concept that you can't get at home? And are there elements of the experience and the customer service that you just can't get at home? If the answer is yes, people will come back. If the answer is no, they might just stay at home and jump on Peloton or one of the others, which we can all admit are very, very good services. So that's kind of how we framed it. It's been interesting to see that develop. Moving forwards, we are focusing fully 100% on the in-person experience and using tech to kind of, enhance that experience.
Got it. So one thing that's definitely a big differentiator between your 2.5 months of lockdown versus, basically we're in month 9, I'd say probably month 9 of lack of the face-to-face relationship. Even if people are coming into a club or a studio, they're not having that same experience. It's kind of like a Planet Fitness inside of, a full amenity box. So there's nothing really going on that people feel a connectivity to a community. It's more of like, laundromat service, if you will, do it yourself. So one of the things that we're dealing with, and I think is going to continue to proliferate, fortunately or unfortunately, is that the instructor and the trainer is building that relationship digitally, and it's not being really built by the club or the studio. So the studios and the clubs, I feel, could be entering this, like you said, you were in New York a couple of years ago, you probably went to a Broadway show. They're almost like the theater, and like the actors are actually have the relationship with the fans, if you will. So have you seen any change between, is the relationship still owned at Base, kind of between Base and the member, or is there kind of a little more relationship between the instructor and the member, and Base is kind of like the umbrella? Or was the 2.5 months kind of short enough where it didn't change the perception that you're a member of Base? And I don't have a relationship with this trainer or instructor who happen to work at Base. I don't know if I explained that or I went on too long, but I'm not going to so answer however you want.
It's a bit of both, I would say. It's definitely the full experience. Like, just for example, one of the things that we look for in our locations is big, high ceilings, right? So when you walk in, it has this feeling that you've come to somewhere special. Right. The technology, it's up on the screens. We've got leaderboards, and it's like there's an app that you would log into when you come in to see what you got last time, so you can try and beat it today. So there's a lot of elements of that experience. The lighting we've worked a lot on. We invested a lot into a big sound system. Actually, I got a lot of inspiration from my initial trip to New York before we opened Base, just to see what the big top players were doing there. It was really interesting to see how they created the brand experience. For example, Rumble did that exceptionally well, like all those little branding points throughout the studio. And that was quite inspirational. So we thought, not what can we just copy directly, but what are they doing to capture the essence of a high-end boutique experience, and what can we do in our own way to make sure it has that same vibe and that same feeling. But of course, in boutique fitness, it is very coach dependent as well. So it is about knowing the coach. The coach knows any little injury you might have. They know your name. They know if you like to push, if you like to be coached closely, if you like to be left alone. And I think that's something that boutique fitness, of course, has done extremely well. And that pretty much started in New York, right? So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's the brand that we've built and the vibe that people get just when they walk through the door, knowing they are coming to Base. Stuff like the sound system, the lights, the music, the design of the place is big as well. But then, of course, the instructors is incredibly important. So we invest a huge amount, not in just the physical location, but also the training process that new coaches and new instructors go through to make sure they're bang on point. And we want all of our coaches, we said this from day one, any coach at Base should be able to step into a gym in New York and they'd still fit in there. They'd still excel there. We kind of use the world's leading fitness markets as our benchmark. And so we thought if we could do that, then we could truly make it a massive success in Asia. And, that's proven to be the case over the first 4 years.
Yeah. No, you make a really interesting point related to the high ceilings and the sound system. I think that the movie theater industry in the U.S. is probably gonna shrink dramatically. These studios are now geared up towards going direct the same day that's going into the movie theater, and they're kind of giving a rev share to the movie theaters now to basically say, hey, I want this out there right when it's ready. But a movie theater, when you think about the high ceilings in a movie theater and you think about the sound systems that are in there, as groups decide and get out of this hibernation mode, and maybe that's not until Q2 or Q3 of next year in the US, identifying those types of opportunities where you can take over a movie theater. And instead of going and taking over an old grocery store because the rent is, cheaper and the landlord's giving you incentives for the long term, I think that spatial experience is what's going to differentiate people, not just, the price. And then we get down to lower price, and how much lower can you go? And if you're still chasing price, then you probably didn't learn anything over the last year. So
yeah, I think it's interesting to look at other industries and see what we can take from those industries for sure. And you look at something like movie theaters, and I think one thing they'll struggle with is you can almost recreate the experience at home now. People have got massive TVs, they've got amazing sound systems, which we didn't have 20 years ago. We had small rubbish TVs. And so I think that's actually a good example of not being able to, people can now recreate that experience largely at home. So they're going to go less. And now they've realized they can do that at home as well. So in the fitness industry, we need to think as in-person gyms, what can we do that people can't get at home? Otherwise, we will be vulnerable to that for sure.
Yeah. So, when you look at private equity capital, there's obviously a couple of groups in Fitness First and Quadrant, behind Greg Oliver. He's got big equity capital. We work with Matt Allison with Space out of Taiwan, and they've got locations in Beijing and Shanghai. What have you seen on the investor side of getting back into the industry? I don't know if there are any big blockbuster deals that have been announced, but is the investor sentiment there? The coast is clear. Show me some quarters of stability, and then there'll probably be some more venture and private equity that gets into the sector. Or did you see everyone say, hey, look, I want to sit on the sidelines, I'm going to window shop like what's being done in the US. And now it's kind of like the vulture investors are in, and the growth equity guys are still kind of, waiting on the sidewalk, trying to see what's happening before they get hit by something.
It's again, we're quite behind the US in that regard. There's some groups that are doing things and making things happen and making acquisitions, such as Evolution Wellness, such as Fitness and Lifestyle Group, as you mentioned, and Space are obviously doing big things in China as well, in Taiwan. So that there is some movement, but it's just a long way behind the US, and especially in the boutique sector where we're at. But interestingly, post-COVID, there's been a lot of conversations, there's been a lot of talk and interest into investing into this industry. I think people are seeing fitness, wellness as like an exciting industry moving forwards. I think there is a feeling there'll be a renewed focus on staying healthy, staying strong, staying fit, like experiential fitness, i.e. going to base and getting a great workout, or getting a Peloton bike or a similar type of at-home service. It kind of gives you that great experience. I think there's certainly been a lot of conversations and a lot of interest, and it's something that we're kind of monitoring closely as well, because as we look to expand around Asia, we're kind of working out the best way to do that. And so, yeah, it's been reassuring to hear of that interest and to have these conversations. And it wasn't something that we really expected, say, in lockdown. I was expecting, a few years really before confidence really fully returned. So that's been very encouraging. And so, I guess we're like 6 months ahead of you guys, right? Maybe even longer, maybe 12 months ahead. So it'll be interesting to see how that's adapted in the US. I think as well, just because it hasn't hit this country hard, or hasn't hit this region like particularly hard, I think maybe the recovery will be quicker, perhaps. Like in the US and the UK and in Europe, where it's been hit hard, perhaps it will take longer for confidence to come back. It's hard to say. But, look at the stock market. It's very interesting what's happened there, right? There still is money flying around. There still is confidence in certain sectors. And I think I'm actually, I would say in a way, I'm more bullish now on the future of fitness than I was a year ago. I think people are going to value this higher than they did before this happened. maybe if COVID-23, COVID-24 comes, people are going to want to be fit, strong, healthy. And I think there's actually also a renewed focus on having a balanced lifestyle. So, wellness retreats, fitness obviously plays a part of that as well. I think that's something that people feel will be a shift in consumer mindset. So yeah, interesting times, but a lot of positive conversations here, more positive than I expected, certainly early on in 2020.
Yeah, to your point about the stock market, I think we live almost like in a three-tiered universe. You've got the real world where everyone's in pain. You've got the stock market that's supposed to be like a leading indicator, but they actually mark to market, every second. So you're actually not a leading indicator. You're a current indicator. And then you have the psychological world that everyone's living in, which is complete unknown. So these things usually are supposed to kind of, be correlated to each other. Consumer confidence is supposed to be the indicator of stock market. The stock market is supposed to be the indicator of how people are feeling. And then small businesses, which is, one of the cornerstones of the U.S., is typically the job growth creator. And now it's, complete destruction on that front. Thankfully, we got a PPP loan coming out that got announced last night. So just one other point before we end up here. Do you see any other, besides, the digital at home and some of the new concepts, is there anything that's kind of hit your radar in the last 6 months, whether it's on, the nutrition side or weight loss or, anything that you've been like, well, maybe it's like Oculus with the, 3D goggles, or is anything that you've seen that's like, wow, I think that might be the future, or that's like a really interesting technology, and anything that's kind of stuck out to you that you're like, hey, I told you here, like in 2025, like this is going to be maybe holograms. I don't know.
Well, in Asia, we're still getting to grips with it all, really, and we're still introducing a lot of new concepts. So there's nothing in this region I've seen that's really blown me away.
Okay.
I think, VR headsets and stuff like that, I've not seen those. I think it might be Matthew Janicek that talks about it at one of the digital tech trade shows in the US. So there's definitely some interesting stuff there. I mean, here I think it's in this region, we're still kind of catching up with that. So nothing that really jumps up and springs to mind. I mean, I guess the biggest thing, if I can use it as a little plug, would be the technology that we've developed, because we think what was missing in the group class fitness space was the tracking and recording of really showing that you're improving as you go through a group class. That was kind of the problem that we wanted to tackle when we set up Base. So the app that we've developed, which is linked into our group classes, it tracks and records the weights that you're lifting as you go through a group class, the distances that you've run on the treadmill. Our concept is a mix of high-intensity interval training, cardio, and strength training. And we felt that was really missing. People would go to classes, go to Orange Theory, whatever it might be. You'd get a sweat, you'd burn calories, you'd see where your heart rate was, but you wouldn't really know if you were getting fitter or stronger. We felt like that was something that was missing that we wanted to bring to group classes. And seeing the initial response of that has been absolutely huge. So as members go through the workout, they would enter their scores, enter their weights, enter their distances, and then we track and record that over time by repeating the same sets. So that's like our little space of innovation, which has been proven to be really popular. And I think it's that differentiator that will help take us to kind of the more developed markets such as Singapore. But let me have a little think if there's anything else, Pete, that pops up, and I'll mention it before the end of the show.
We'll put it on the descriptor. So look, and it was great connecting with you. Maybe we could start like a 24/7 global podcast. So like I'll do it over here, and then like I'll pass the baton to you, and we'll just keep rolling 24/7 and get everyone excited from an investment standpoint.
Maybe get a cable TV channel or something like that. Probably get one quite cheap, right?
I mean, why not, right? Let's just
take it and shift.
Right? Awesome.
The Fitness News Network.
FNN.
Yo, FNN.
Let's do it. You heard it here first.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, let's collaborate. Our goals definitely align with yours, and let's get as much capital into this industry. Let's get entrepreneurs to be successful, and then the more money we have, the more profitable it is, the more people we can help. So,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. It's this industry needs to be run as a business. And I think that's something we haven't seen enough in Asia. I think you see a lot of people get into the industry just for passion alone. That's a great start, but they don't really take the business side seriously. And that's something that we've really been struggling with, I would say, in this region. And that was one of the big reasons why I set up the podcast, is because We want it to be seen as a business. We want it to be taken seriously. Then we can help more people. We can have more impact. The industry can grow a lot more worldwide. So very much on the same page with that one, Pete, and definitely with you on that.
All right. Well, we'll get some of your people into the Halo Academy. We're trying to do this business intensive, and look forward to meeting you in person as soon as I could get out of here.
Hopefully next year, 2021. Let's see.
Awesome. All right, man.
Thank you,
Keep up
Pete.
the great work. Talk to you soon.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. All right, later.
As we continue to build our Halo Talks email notification database, want to offer you a free $10 instant gift card from our friends at Promotion Vault. Also to show you how easy it is to offer your members and prospects and clients the ability to get desired actions out of them and reward them in real time. Go to halotalks.com, put your email address into the pop-up box, see how it works, get a free $10 gift card from us, and keep listening and making everybody great.